Hi there, and welcome to Body Efficiency Training. And this training is based upon the idea that there is a better way of using your body, a way that is more efficient. In fact, this is the most efficient training you could ever possibly do. Now, that's not me blowing my own trumpet. That is by definition. If you think about it, what is the most efficient training you could ever do? Well, that would be training that trains you to become more efficient, which is what we're doing here. What is efficiency? Well, efficiency is measured as a reduction in effort. If you're doing something and it's a lot of work for very little result, chances are it's quite inefficient. So efficiency is really a measure of your energy or the work you are doing. And a lot of the stuff you see me do in some of these previous videos in martial arts terms, you can see me doing quite a lot, but what you can't see is the reduction in effort. You can't see is how easy this comes to me. So there's two parts to this. I'm generating force and movement, but I'm also reducing the effort in doing so. And this applies to us all, because efficiency in functional movements, the movements we have to do all day long, is going to make a big difference to our life and the energy levels we have available to us. We have to learn how to align our body correctly, align our skeleton correctly for the task or the function we're having to do at that moment. Now, this may seem like neither here nor there, but it's a very, very big difference, and a difference that you won't know until you try it. You have to actually try this. Because standing up, let's take standing up. Standing up, we all know how to stand up. What's the big deal? But it's night and day. If you stand up with the correct alignment compared to standing up with the incorrect alignment that we're used to, it's night and day. It's a big, big difference. Standing up becomes very efficient, very easy, and ultimately very enjoyable. You actually enjoy it. You enjoy the work your body is doing because it's doing the right work. It's doing efficient work. Alignment, perhaps the deepest reason for alignment is because of the flow of energy. The energy in your body will flow better when there is good alignment. The bones have to line up correctly, and there needs to be a stretch in the bones or a cushion in the joints, and then the energy or the chi flows nicely through your body. And again, that makes a huge difference to the way you feel in your body. So you have to practice this, you have to have a try before you can even feel this. And feeling this is the thing that will convince you have to do it. And for me now, I train all the time. I absolutely love this. I can't help it. I have to do it because I feel better in the body. I feel stronger in my body. So, of course I want to do it. So this is the second introduction video I've done. So this is version 2. And I'll keep on doing these introduction videos now and then and improving upon the way I explain this. But it's quite a difficult concept to grasp, what I'm trying to do, or what we're trying to do in this training. So it requires some explanation. The best way I've found to explain this is that there are higher dynamic functions in the body that we are unaware of. And I'd go so far as to say that these are my discoveries from my own personal training, my studies, and pretty much continuous and obsessive experimenting on myself to find these. These are not a style, these are not made up things, this is a scientific study, these are discoveries, and these are real dynamic functions that your body can do. So this is quite exciting. I'm possibly the first person to talk about this, I better say possibly, and you guys in that case will be the first guys to hear about this. So please do subscribe, like, and put notifications, because I plan to keep going on this channel and there's lots of stuff I'm going to talk about and show, and we've only just started. I'm going to be talking about some pretty far out concepts in time and some very exciting ideas. So let's go back to what we're talking about here. I want to give an overview of these dynamic functions, tell you a little bit about some of them. They are more and more advanced versions. There are higher levels to these functions. For example, we're using our body now, imagine it's gear. A gear's in a car. You've got gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 4. At the moment we're using our body in gear 0, all of us. We're doing the bare, basic, minimum things our body can do. And I mean that even in terms of athletes. You can do cool things with the body like backflips and that sort of thing. And those are higher dynamic functions of the body that we can't all do, but they're in there. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about individual obvious movements. I'm talking about internal functions, a way you can use your body better. So for example, someone who could do a backflip, training this efficiency training would improve their backflip. A sprinter might run 100 meters in a certain speed, but if they would understand and train this body efficiency training and learn these higher functions, they'd be able to shave another second off. Their sprinting would improve to another level. Their efficiency would increase because they're still using their body on gear 0 for basic functions. They don't realise there's gear 1, gear 2, gear 3 and gear 4. Your body can move in different ways. It has different ways of doing things. And these are the higher dynamic functions. So I've already done 2 lessons, or 1.5 lessons. The first lesson is standing up straight. And standing up is a higher dynamic function also. We don't instinctively know how to stand up. The baby can only crawl. It has to see adults standing up to copy. And the thing is, we copy our parents in every single way. So the way our parents stand, we copy that. They might be standing minutely off alignment, one shoulder down a bit or twisting a little bit, and we will copy those minute misalignments. So we haven't seen somebody standing up truly straight. So we've never had anyone to copy. All we've copied is tiny misalignments in everyone we see. So we're still on ground 0. So standing up straight, just standing up, is still a level. But standing up properly is night and day. Now we're hitting gear 1 or gear 2. So standing up properly is a higher dynamic function. The second one I call the cantilever effect. Now this is very interesting. Here we're definitely getting into new territory. And I'm talking about the body not so much in an anatomically correct sense, but in a sense of how it feels inside yourself. So this is important. We need to feel this. We need to get in touch with how our body feels. Hence, we all need to practice experimenting. You've got to always do this slowly, carefully, and test out the waters. Always try carefully. There's a risk of injury. But the cantilever effect is using the joints in a way to create more strength. So there's a particular way of aligning the joints that activates the tendons and the ligaments in the joints to hold the structure. So that lesson is, I've already done half of that in the leaning forward with the body. So right now I'm leaning forward in the chair, but I'm leaning with my elbows and I've got my spine in the correct alignment. And you might also notice I'm pivoting a bit, so I'm keeping the blood flowing in my spine. So I'm always working my structure and my movement. Then we're moving into other higher functions. So there's another one after that which I call the sliding pivot. So that's again a way of moving your joints to generate force through relaxation. And this is again a scientific thing. You need to understand the principles of a sliding pivot, how it works, and then how to use your joint as a sliding pivot. Because most of us are just using our joint as a pivot. A pivot is moving in one spot like this. A sliding pivot is moving at the same time as pivoting. So a sliding pivot is a different dynamic function, and we don't know about that. Then we're moving up to a more unified function, which I call dynamic tendon isometrics. And this allows you to link your body together through tension in the joints. And so there's a tension, for example, in my arm. I'm moving my arm, but there's a dynamic tension in the joints, but it hasn't restricted the movement of my arm. There's tension there, but it can move suddenly if required. I can switch between tension and relaxation by turning on and off various tendons in the joints. And this is a greater skill. This is tricky to learn, but it's a higher dynamic function the human body has that we don't even know about. And it's very, very efficient. Then you have alignment, various alignments. You have to learn the geometry of your skeleton. And again, we don't need to go into proper anatomy. We just need to know the feeling and how it feels through your body. And we have to go through various positions to generate particular functions. For example, if you want to push a car up a hill, there will be a position your body should take for the most efficient way of pushing that car up the hill. Now we all basically know it, we all push the car like this, but what we don't know is if we can align the bones just right, get the angles all in the right position, the angle of the back leg just perfect and hold up with the tendons, you suddenly got far greater strength. The tiniest misalignment reduces the strength dramatically. So this is a totally different approach to using your body. You're using your body by trying to get alignment right. And if you do that, the strength increases dramatically. The power increases dramatically. And there will be one perfect aligned position for you to push that car up the hill. So you have to find it. It's a science. It's not a style, it's a science. You have to find that perfect alignment to do that job. And then we move up to still higher functions. Once we have dynamic tendon isometrics, we can move into another way of using our body altogether, a way that I call hydraulic power. Now, hydraulic power, at the moment we think of our body as a sort of robot. It's made with levers and pulleys. So there's a lever here and the muscle is a sort of a pulley making this lever work. And that can generate strength. But a hydraulic system is a system of tubes with pressure, fluid pressure inside it. So you increase the pressure and that makes an extension at the end, a piston. And there's a movie, I can't remember what it's called now, but about robots fighting. It's a kids movie. So the kids can control the robots, they're fighting in the ring. And these robots have got pistons for punching. Now this is exactly hydraulic power. So hydraulic power will be the extension of my joints through a sequence in my structure. So it's as if I'm squeezing fluid through my limbs to create an extension and create a force. I'll be talking about that further and demonstrating that properly. This is quite a high level skill, hard to master this one. We'll work up to that. And if you can gain that one, then the highest dynamic function the human body has, or at least the way I'm thinking right now, the highest physical dynamic function the body has is peristaltic motion. Now, peristaltic motion, peristalsis is thought of as the movement of fluids going through your body through the digestive system. Your fluid is going through tubes and it's being pushed along the tubes. And it's pushed along by a sequential squeezing of muscles to push fluid along. And for example, a worm will move through the ground as well like this, with peristaltic motion, working its way through the earth. So now peristaltic motion is moving the fluids through the body sequentially through tension in the joints. So I'm using tension and extension of joints to move blood through the body, move the lymphatic fluid through the body, and ultimately we want to reach the bones. If we can reach the bone structure, we're moving the bones. I don't know if you can hear the clicks, but I'm getting clicking in my bones. I'm trying to move the bones inside the muscles, so the bones are stretching, the joints are stretching. I'm getting clicks in the joints. If you can get to this level, what you're doing is squeezing the bone marrow. You're squeezing the fluid inside the bones. The bones are hollow, and inside there's another fluid that's moving into the bone marrow. And in the bone marrow creates the new blood, and we need to bring the bone marrow, the new blood out of the bone marrow into the body. So peristaltic motion is, at the highest level of that, is to move the bone marrow. And this will regenerate you. Beyond that, we move into other levels. Beyond that, we move into fluids. Peristaltic motion is how to move fluids through your body, but what are those fluids? Well, you have blood, you have the lymphatic fluid, you have the hormonal fluids, and you have various different fluids in the organs and the joints. But each of these fluids has a circuit, and we're learning to control these fluids and move them through their circuit more efficiently. And the most interesting one of these is the hormonal fluids. There is a circuit of hormonal fluids through the body, and the Tao talk about this a lot. The Tao and the Qigong Society, Qigong people, and we'll have to talk about this in greater depth later. But we learn how to control the fluids in our body, which is a highly efficient thing to do to regenerate ourselves and heal faster. And beyond that, there is the electrical system in your body. There is electricity that flows through your body, and we have to learn how to harness the electricity through our body. And that's interesting because the electricity flows like water. It flows like fluid in the body, but it's much, much faster. And in the olden days, electricity was thought of as a fluid. It was called a fluid. And once there's electricity, there's of course also magnetism. There are fields. So you have a magnetic field in your body, and you need to know how to control that as well. Harness that and increase that. And in fact, those two things go together. You can't really have one without the other. But there are two different functions in the body. For example, the heart is the center of the magnetic field, or the heart has a very powerful magnetic field, and the kidneys are the center of the electrical field. They're like batteries. The electricity, not the electric field. Okay, I digress. Magnetism is the electric field, or to be more specific, the dielectric field. So this is a more old-fashioned term in physics. Dielectricity, put simply, is electrostatics, voltage. A static voltage difference is dielectricity. But once you have dielectricity, you have a field which is magnetism. So magnetism is the dielectric field. And we'll have more talks about this as well in the future. And this, of course, leads further. It leads further into the metaphysics. Because what is above the electromagnetic field, or the dielectric field? What is above that? Well, there is the unmanifest. Still, dielectricity is manifest. There is something that is pre-manifest. So now we're moving into metaphysics, and we'll be talking about that. And again, put simply or colloquially, we're talking about your soul, your spirit. And there is a scientific explanation for these as well, which we'll talk about. So this is not a religious discussion, nor is it even a New Age discussion. It will be a discussion on metaphysics and physics. And I do have a degree in physics. I'm a serious scientist, so I do have some serious training in logical thinking. This whole thing has got to be logical. This has got to be logical, it's got to be scientific. And you have to approach it with that mentality. You've got to think about it, and you've got to study it, and you've got to experiment on yourself and work it out for yourself. That being said, we're going to start this training with some practical things. We're starting off, I'm doing these lessons explaining these higher dynamic functions, but I'll also be doing some simpler lessons in explaining basic functional training that we can all do straight away. For example, how to sit in a chair, how to stand up, how to walk. Now, walking and running are very high-level mastery skills. They're not easy to do. We can all walk, but we can't walk correctly. There is one particular specific dynamic way of walking that is the most efficient, that utilizes all your joints correctly, so there's no impact on the knee, and the efficiency is so great that you'll be able to walk indefinitely. And the same with running. If you can achieve running, the efficiency of the running is so great that you could just run indefinitely. You would have indefinite endurance. So I don't train running, but at some point I'll be training some running when I feel like doing that level. And I'll film it and try to show the actual dynamics of running. But I already know I can run for fairly a long time without having done any particular aerobic training or running training, because I'm not trying to run, I'm trying to run efficiently. So every footstep I take is increasing the accuracy of my alignment and increasing the efficiency of the cushion in my joints. And now I missed one. I'm utilizing another higher dynamic function, which is spring loading the joints. You need to know how to spring load your joints. So at the moment, for example, a strike is the easiest way of explaining this. Well, let's say a crossbow. You have a crossbow, you pull back the spring, tick, 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 and then it's held on the trigger. And then to strike, you release the spring. Bong. So the strike, or the arrow, is released on the relaxation of the spring load, of the spring. The same with us. I'm spring load my joint, and then the strike comes from the release of that spring load. Mostly we're having tension at the end of the strike. The tension is before the strike is on the release. So spring loading the joints is another high dynamic function of the body. So to sum up this introduction, I am working to discover these higher dynamic functions of the body, and then I'm practicing them. So partly the reason I'm doing this YouTube is for my own practice. So I watch this back, I study it back, and I have to do these things myself. I'm learning them all the time. Every day I'm improving more. And for example, that last lesson, the cantilever effect, when I watched it back, I realised I'm still not doing that enough. I've got to do this all the time. It reminds me to do it. And we don't do it because we think, I can lean forward, I'm used to it. If you lean forward better, every time you lean forward a little bit better. The day will come when you can lean forward effortlessly. And you'll wonder, why was I doing this before? Same with squatting up and down, or getting up and down. There is a way of going down and up effortlessly. And I'll be doing a lesson on that, the effortless squat. Yes, and I mean that, effortless squat. Effortless to go down and effortless to get up again. And I can teach that all to you. You can all do that fairly quickly. And there's the opposite. There's the other one is to train higher dynamic tension, and that is called the impossible squat. So you resist yourself going up and down to make it impossible. So your tension increases, and that's training the strength in your joints. So we'll do a lesson on that also. So there's a lot coming, and as I said, I'll do more of these introductory videos as we go along, time to time, and as my ability to explain it gets better. So thanks for listening if you got this far. See you in the next video.